Our greatest need is to find meaning in life.
There was one freedom they could not take away from him, and that was his ability to respond to his situation.
Man cannot live without hope.
Good morning, guys. I wanted to start this podcast today because we wanted to do a book review on this amazing book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. This is an amazing book. It's been life impacting for me to be able to navigate through a lot of the challenges. And today I brought Cristy Lebaron to join us to give us a book review. Cristy,
Hey.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So we wanted to talk about this book and give some context of where the scene's being taken place. This book is being written by a psychologist named Viktor Frankl during World War II, during the Nazi regime. This is when Viktor Frankl was a Jew. He was picked up by the Nazis, put in a concentration camp. And it takes a really powerful setting because he is stripped away from a lot of his rights in this moment. And him being a psychologist, you were able to get a different perspective on the experience he had in there. And it was a lot of powerful things coming out of this book. So, Cristy, I'd like to ask you some of the things that were impactful to you reading it.
Yeah. I think this is a very impactful book. And it's one of those books that the more you read it, you realize there's so much more there. One of the things that I could relate with a lot was how he talked that our greatest need is to find meaning in life. That all of us are like in this search, right? We're in this search for something that has been lost or something that is missing, right? So for many people, we kind of go through life with this question of what is the meaning of my life, and we want so badly for our lives to matter, for our lives not to be insignificant, to do something meaningful. And so anyway, so I just thought it was interesting that he links meaning as the primary motivation in our life.
Meaning, but when he's talking about the book, Cristy, what is it by? Like, what does it mean to find meaning in life? What is his the principle behind the idea of finding meaning? What is it?
So one of the things that he says is that you can't ask, like most of our like, what is the meaning of my life in this general way? And he says, if you want to find the meaning to your life, you have to get specific. You have to recognize that you are unique as an individual and that you have a specific purpose on your life. So he says that you are not the one asking the question, right? What is the meaning of my life? He says, rather, it is you who is asked, right? And so he says you can only answer that question of what is the meaning of my life by being responsible. So essentially, he says that the essence of life is responsibleness.
Yeah, and I love that part because there's such a powerful part in this book when he is going through this horrendous experience, and he says that no matter what, they took away everything, all of his freedoms, but there was one freedom they could not take away from him, and that was his ability to respond to his situation.
Yeah.
Like his attitude towards what was happening to him, nobody could take that away from him. He could respond in any way, in any shape and matter possible, and nobody could take that away from him.
Yeah, so he said that one of the ways to find meaning, right? There's different ways to find meaning, but one of the ways was through suffering, right? So when you're encountered with a hopeless situation, something that you can't change, and he kind of gave the example of a disease that you could do nothing about. The way in which you held your human dignity, right? The way in which you responded, your attitude, the attitude in which you faced such a suffering, that triumph was one of the ways to find meaning.
Very interesting when he says this, that you find meaning in suffering, because it's one of those things where either pain uses you or you use pain, right? Mm-hmm. So I find that very interesting because most of the times people, and what I love about this book, they let pain use them, right? They allow themselves to become victims of their experience.
Well, what he said is one of his greatest fears was not to be worthy of his suffering, right? To suffer in vain.
Yes.
To have lost that opportunity, that suffering, it gives you this very unique opportunity to almost overcome your deepest fears, right? But the thing that I found most interesting about suffering that he said that if there is no meaning in suffering, there's no meaning in life.
Absolutely. So important for us to experience pain in life. It's where you learn from, it's where you grow from. And I believe that one of the best things that one of the best takeaways that I took away from this book was that he did not allow himself to become a victim. You know, to be able to, the opposite of being able to have a victim mentality is to having a responsible mentality.
Yeah.
That I am able to
Yeah.
respond to my situation.
Yeah, so when he talked about suffering, right? They're in the camps. Everything had been stripped from them, and yet they were faced with this task of finding meaning in the suffering, right? So they have to find this goal. They have to find this meaning, this purpose in the suffering. So he says one of the most important things in life is to recognize to find that goal, to recognize that you are responsible. You're responsible for your attitude. You're responsible for your actions and your behavior. And until you take that responsibility, your life will feel meaningless.
Absolutely. I think that one of the things, like some information I came across and it reminds me of the conversation that you're talking about, is to always go in a situation believing that it's your fault. I mean, if you go into every task and anything that happens to you in your life and have the mentality of, that's my fault, good and bad, right? If you know the nice house you have, the beautiful family, the nice cars, that's my fault.
Yeah.
But also the bad experiences, right? The bad thing, the suffering that you're talking about, hey, that's my fault. And something about it has been really, really helping me. I've been going through certain situations in my life where making bad deals or just bad relationships or just certain circumstances that are happening. And as soon as I tell myself, hey, that's my fault, I instantly become powerful to the situation where, hey, if it's my fault, I'm able to do something about it.
Yeah.
Versus the other mentality, the victim mentality, where it's not my fault. You're like, oh, I can't do anything about it because it's not my fault.
Yeah, because
right?
now you're determined by your circumstances, right?
Exactly.
It's like, hey, you're determined because your parents did it to you, your circumstances, your job, your boss, and you're not responsible.
As soon as you can have that mentality, though, in everything that you do, anything good or bad that's happening to you, you say, that's my fault.
Yeah.
You instantly become powerful to the situation. You have power. You have something you can do about it. It's such a powerful perspective to have, to not allow yourself to become a victim, have a victim mentality.
Yeah, so he said that those that were most likely to survive were the ones that had this vision of the future. So he says man cannot live without hope. He cannot live without a vision of the future, right? And he talked about, modern day society, that it's actually really a struggle, that we have too much time, right? We don't know what to do with ourselves. So so a lot of us, the way that this meaninglessness shows up in our lives, the way that this void, this emptiness shows up, is we're bored. We're bored.
Something that you touched on really important there, where he talks about the importance of hope. So him and his friends are in this concentration camps with very little hope, right? Trying to look towards the future of what's going to happen, what's going to the turnout's going to take out from this experience. Yeah. Watching some of his friends die every day, and he's putting along very, very like slim, right? He's dodging death left and right, and he's talking about it in the book. But one great story that he shared on the book that was very impactful for me was when his friend is talking about, he's putting a date on when they're going to get released. And he says, by this day, we're going to be out of here. And he predicted it. Mm-hmm. And every day, every week, he'd say, we're going to be out by this day, having that hope that we're going to be out. They're going to liberate us by this day. And eventually that day shows up and they're still incarcerated and they're not free. And he says that within a week, he died. That friend died. Yeah. After that, he lost hope. So
he had lost hope for the future and he was disillusioned, right? And I think how many times do we do that in life, right? We have this goal, we have this hope, and yet we don't achieve it the way that we had hoped for, and then we become totally hopeless. And anyway, so he talked even about, like, it was important to look to the past, but not to live in the past. That when you lived in the past, that also created a sense of hopelessness. So, but I think that's why he says that every day, every hour, our meaning is constantly changing. He says that if you're alive, there's hope, right? If you're alive, there is a meaning and there is a purpose to your life, and it's specific to you. Yeah. Right? That your life cannot be repeated and your life cannot be replaced. And I think that was really powerful to me, because, like, a lot of times you just think, well, what is there for me to do? Everything's been done. Everyone's doing it. And so just to recognize that you have a unique voice, that you have certain people in your life, you have certain opportunities, And you are the only one that can make a difference in that situation. Maybe it's to your children, maybe it's to your spouse, maybe it's to the people that you encounter. So just recognizing that that your life can't be replaced. And I love the story that he talked about a man who had lost hope. And he reminded him of his daughter, and he said, hey, well, if you lose hope as a father, who can take your place in your daughter's heart, right? In your daughter's affections, like who can take your place? And in that moment, he realized that if he didn't survive, no one could take his place as a father, right? And he says that when you recognize that you cannot be replaced, that you will never waste your life. And I think a lot of times we waste our life because we don't realize the impact that we can make and how our lives can really touch the people around us.
Yeah, very, very, very impactful. Loving the book.
Yeah.
Anything else, Cristy, that you wanted to share that was very impactful to you on this book?
Yeah, I think he says that the essence of life is to be responsible, right? And then he says the challenge too is that who are we responsible to? Like, so when you say I'm responsible to who? Right? So he said it's really important to ask that question of who am I responsible to? What am I responsible for? And that's a question that each of us as individuals have to ask. Like, am I responsible to society, right? Am I responsible to God? Am I responsible to myself? And I think a lot of us have lost that sense of responsibility because we're only responsible to ourselves, right? We live in this very individualistic society where it's all about me. We're very self-centered. And he says that you can never fulfill your potential as long as you're self-centered. He says that the more you forget yourself, when we talk about self-actualization, becoming all you can be and reaching your potential, he says you actually can't reach your potential unless you forget yourself and unless you transcend yourself, unless you give your life to something or someone greater than themselves. That's when you're truly human.
I love that. And that's why I believe people's lives are so changing once they have children, because they start living for something bigger and for other people, rather than themselves.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. Anyways, I want to conclude this podcast. Guys, reach out, try to get this book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Please keep following us on this journey of enlightenment. We're going to keep making more podcasts of different books. Please subscribe to our channel. Appreciate you guys being here. Cristy, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye-bye.